The mind has such tremendous power, and often we do not realize this. And the British poet in the 17th from the 17th century, I think, John Milton, in his epic poem Paradise Lost, one thing that he said: the mind is such that it can make hell out of heaven and heaven out of hell. And very useful to realize this. But very few of us realize the power and consciously work with it and even cultivate the power of our mind. The world in which we live at present is created by our collective minds. And our mind, the faculty of the soul, that faculty that creates thought, that creates feelings, attitude, vibration, all of that happens in our mind. And it is our power and our treasure if we use it accurately. Because in the same way that it has positive and uplifting power, in the same way it also has power to destroy and power to degrade. And so to use this power in a way that is constructive, in a way that is uplifting, in a way that is elevating, this would be our challenge. But first of all, to wake up to the fact that we have this tremendous treasure, that we are beings who hold immense power. But if we are not awake to this, then this power goes to waste. We create lots of waste thoughts, waste emotions, waste behavior comes out of that. And then our life just spirals downwards into an abyss of negativity and sorrow and vices and destruction. Whilst if we use that power and if we wake up to the fact of our own higher nature, that we are spiritual beings, that we are visitors on this planet, visitors in this body, that we innately have divine potential, and to live with the strength of that higher nature. That would be using soul power in our day-to-day activities. But the first aspect that we need to realize to wake up this soul power and to use it, to canalize it in a constructive way, would be to become aware of ourselves as spiritual beings. Generally, we think of ourselves as mere mortals. We think of ourselves in terms of our physical characteristics or our social status or our monetary potential or our relationships. And all those have limits and they can change and they can finish anytime. But when we wake up to the awareness of ourselves as immortal spiritual beings, beings who are innately sources of peace and love and happiness, we just have to become aware of ourselves as that child of the Supreme Being, invisible, but a being of consciousness with this higher nature. When we start feeling secure because of being imperishable, when we start feeling safe and free and peaceful because of knowing ourselves as children of that Supreme One, and that this whole physical world is a game. We play out a part, we take on a body, we act a role, and then we leave the body, but we continue on the journey. When we begin to see and understand this bigger perspective, this spiritual perspective on self and on life, that is when that soul power gets released. And then we don't need to be scared anymore for things that in mortal consciousness we are scared of. Then we don't need to run after things that we think make us feel good or define us, when we begin to see that those are just temporary things, physical things that may be with us or not, but they don't define who we are and they don't define our value. So we don't need to be stressed out anymore and in this stress when we have them or not have them. This whole physical world is just seen as a game that we play, many toys around. Even this body is a very sophisticated toy that we play. But when the game is finished, the soul goes on further on the journey, goes back to the soul world. The real self never dies. The soul never loses its innate higher nature. We are one family of spiritual beings, and we can never ever lose each other. Bodies may come and go. Physical interactions, they come and go, but we are forever beings of consciousness, children of the Supreme. And we travel on this journey through time and space until we go back to that dimension of silence and light, to that dimension of stillness and bliss, where we forever are a family of spiritual beings. When we can hold this broader and spiritual perspective, then there is no need for sorrow anymore. There is no need for disappointment or anger or attachment, which drains us and which throws us into a downward spiral of unpleasant and even negative and destructive emotions. And if we are deeply internally experiencing peace, experiencing that unconditional love, that joy from playing the game and knowing each one as my eternal brother, that purity, that stage of inner contentment where one doesn't feel I need anything or I want or I desire anything. When we live on the strength of that higher nature, then of course the game that we play will be a beautiful one. The world and the society that we create will be a beautiful one. Then we will create a world that is infused with soul power. And at this moment in time, of course, there is all kinds of power, but it is the power of lower human nature, of ego, of arrogance, of greed, of anger, of violence, of lust, of attachment, of jealousy. Those are the powers that rule today's world. And we now are called to shift, to change it again. There is so much sorrow and so much suffering. We all need to wake up again to the truth of our own higher nature and to the beauty of our spiritual identity. shift the, the rule of the power of ignorance, the rule of vices over our own mind and over the world. Wake up to who you truly are and release that power. And of course, we will need powers, many different aspects of that power to manifest. For example, through the power to tolerate, the power to discern, the power to be introvert, the power to face, the power to cooperate. But let it come from that clarity and that wisdom that we are all spiritual beings, one family. But first of all, let me wake up and stay awake to my own spiritual identity and to that higher nature and release the power that is within the soul. So let's have a few minutes of meditation, because studying spiritual knowledge and the practice of meditation is the method to wake up, to stay awake, and to emerge that soul power. So for a few moments, let us bring our attention to the present and right here, right now, and consciously create this thought that whilst acknowledging the existence of the body, the conscious living being is who I truly am, invisible being of light, the one who operates the body, who plays the game in this physical dimension. But the real self is this timeless, imperishable, immortal, living light. One who has come from that dimension of stillness and silence and light. And one who will return there. And just begin to hold that image of the tiny living star operating this body as if from the center of the forehead. And come back to this awareness again and again and again. The real I, the soul, is a being of peace, is immortal, timeless, living light, free and safe. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your journey using soul power.